Hi everyone, it's Liam here from A Shot of Wildlife, and today I've brought you to the creme de la creme of wildlife hides. We've got graffiti, we've got more graffiti, and we've got litter. But better than that, out here is Braid and Water. So in this video, I'm going to tell you about some of the birds that sit here on the high and low tide. Braid and Water is a 4.5 mile long tidal estuary just inland of Great Yarmouth on the east coast. Although this hide isn't the prettiest, being raised above the floodbank, it provides a great view across the marsh, mudflats and water. Straight away I could see that the sky and shallows were filled with thousands of birds. There are many species here, but the most noticeable and easily identifiable is the clear line of golden birds. These are golden plovers, and there may be as many as 30,000 of them at just this one site. They don't breed here, but gather together in the winter to form massive flocks at coastal and wetland areas. Alongside the golden plover, there are hundreds of black and white lapwings and grey coloured Blacktailed Godwits. We'll take a closer look at these later in the video. Occasionally, for seemingly no reason at all, the entire flock of birds would take to the sky and perform an amazing aerial display. Here the dark-winged birds are lapwings, showing their characteristic heavy-looking and slow-moving flight. I grew up in Great Yarmouth, and despite visiting Braid and Water lots of times as a youngster, I've never seen the birds in flight like this. Or perhaps I have, but I never understood it or appreciated it before now. Closer into the hide, amongst the saltwater marsh, there were several murky, water-filled ditches, and one of them had a ghost-like resident. This bird, with its chalk white feathers, long dark beak and yellow feet, is a little egret. This is a member of the heron family and only started breeding in the UK 26 years ago. Despite this one's statue-like composure, little egrets are predators and usually march or sometimes run through the shallow water looking for fish and other small organisms to eat. Well, as great as it was in there, it's time for me to take you somewhere actually a little bit nicer. We need to cross the river and go to the other side of Braid and Water. So I said I was going to bring you somewhere nicer, and I have delivered the goods. Here I am on the Borough Castle side of Braid and Water. There's lots of reed beds here, some tidal mudflats, and I can already see lots of wading birds off there in the distance. Let's see if we can get a closer look at them. I should have looked before I spoke, as it turns out the birds in the distance were a mixed flock of grey-lag geese and unidentifiable ducks. There are maybe 200 geese just here, but they soon took to the air and flew off into the distance. With no birds in sight, I had the opportunity to show you what, aside from the scenery, draws all these thousands of birds to the area. Braid and Water is a massive expanse of shallow and tidal water. This means that twice a day, when the tide goes out, vast expanses of invertebrate-rich mud are exposed for the birds to feed on. Alongside the mudflats, the neighbouring marshes and farmland provide plenty more roosting and feeding opportunities, and there are also many patches of dense reed beds which give shelter from the harshest weather. Whilst I waited for the tide to drop and for the wading birds to arrive, I took a short walk along the reed beds and spotted this Marsh Harrier as it soared low over the vegetation. These are wetland specialists, and more than 1/4 of the UK's population lives in Norfolk. This is only around 100 pairs, but that's a massive figure considering they were completely extinct here at the beginning of the 20th century. Hidden way down in the reed bed, I could just about make out another specialist. This is a water rail. Now I can appreciate that this isn't the best view, but I've only seen them a handful of times, and it isn't even the worst view that I've had. Despite being a fairly widespread breeding bird, water rails are extremely elusive and spend almost all of their time skulking amongst the reeds, searching for small fish, snails and insects to eat. I headed back towards the mudflats and the signs were looking good for wading birds. The tide had gone out far enough to expose the mud and an all-you-can-eat buffet had begun. Closest to me were several common red shank. As their name suggests, these small wading birds have red legs, although you might struggle to make that out from these poorly lit shots. They're about the size of a small pigeon and use their pointed bills to grab invertebrates from within the mud. Amongst the redshanks were some black-headed gulls. Despite their name, this species never really has a black head, but does develop a dark brown head in the breeding season. These birds are highly adaptable and opportunist feeders, and will eat everything from carrion and scraps to grain, seeds and fruits. These are probably searching for fish, invertebrates or any shellfish that have been stranded by the receding water. Much further out were 6 larger wading birds, Blacktailed Godwits. Just like the redshanks, these are using their even longer pointed beaks to probe the mud in search of worms and invertebrates. There were less than 120 breeding black-tailed godwits in the UK, but during the winter this number swells to more than 40,000 birds, which have migrated south from their breeding grounds in Iceland. There was a large flock of lapwings here too. Notice how they have a tall crest of feathers on top of their heads. Just like those on the other side of Breydon, these spent more time in the air than in the mud, but what a beautiful sight. Just as I was about to leave, and just about as far as my camera could reach, there were 3 even larger wading birds. With their long down-curved bills, these Eurasian Curlews are not just the largest wading birds on the mudflats, they are the largest wading birds in the whole of Europe. Sadly, the numbers are declining and they may soon go extinct as an English breeding bird. Well, I think that's enough looking at waders for today. What a great afternoon it's been. It is the shortest day of the year and it's going to get dark soon, so I need to make it back to the car. If you did enjoy this video, then why not check out this other British wildlife video here and subscribe to the channel if you like them both. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.